And hello all my fellow nerds out there, this is Oracle Richie and welcome back once again to the PokéMonth Countdown Series Special. So, you guys probably remember last time I covered my top 10 favorite normal types, and this time we're going to be covering 10 of my favorite Pokemon from its polar opposite, which is fighting, in case any of you guys didn't know. Pokemon wouldn't really be any fun if they didn't really do anything in the games, so we chose to have them fight to the finish. Okay, well, not really to the finish, only mostly fight to the fate. But stealing jokes aside, I wanted to talk about the fighting type for a pretty decent while, especially since Pokémonth has just started again. I mean, really, the whole point of fighting types is, well, fighting, which is practically just a no-duh moment if I were to say one. And when it comes to choosing 10 of them that I liked, there was actually quite a lot to choose from. I honestly didn't think that there was that many. I honestly thought there was less. But if we're including half typings as well, then that's honestly quite a bit. I mean, I know water is the most abundant type, but fighting could just about rival it if they actually decide to make more fighting types that are not just regional variants. From Machamp to Gobalion, there's quite a lot of them to pick from. And once again, it also happens to be one of the most common attacking types in VGC. Trust me when I say that if you're gonna play competitive Pokemon, you are bound to find a few fighting types on the enemy team. Trust me, even your own team is probably gonna comprise at least one fighting type, like Lucario or, I don't know, maybe Grapploct if you're feeling a little festive, but enough of that. Time to get into top 10 fighting type Pokemon. Seriously, I honestly don't know why I script myself to stutter. I should really script these videos better. Primeape. Now, Kanto is a lot of fighting types to choose from, and by a lot, I mean it only has like a few, but Primeape has to be one of my favorites of all of them. Being based on monkeys is probably one of the reasons why I like it. I mean, I always kind of liked the whole Prime. Wait, is that where his name's supposed to come from? Prime and Ape, Primal Ape? I think I just understood that after all these years. Anyways, speaking of which, Primeape has to be one of my favorite fighting types from the Kanto region, which still utterly confuses me why Bruno doesn't use one. He literally has shackles on his wrists and feet. He literally could have used a Primeape instead of two Onixes. Raping aside, I kind of wanted to talk about Primeape in a bit more context because, well, I don't know, there's just something about it that I really like. It's categorized as a pig monkey Pokemon and kind of a weird pick because it is the middle stage evolution, and yes, I said middle stage evolution. I will go over that in a second. I'm very sorry that I'm scatterbrained today. It's just how I am with these videos. I can't really do script writing all that well. But anyways, Primeape is just one of those Pokemon that has a long-lasting impression on me that I never forgot. Even as an adult, I used to watch this Pokemon as a kid, and again, I mentioned that before that I had the VHS tapes back then. I'm not kidding. I actually do have VHS tapes, and each of them have 3 episodes each. One of those episodes being where he was introduced to this rage-induced ape, and you know, Primeape goes bananas. I believe the episode was called. And in that episode, Ash and the group meet a lonely Mankey who apparently was interested in just wanting to see them because, you know, monkey see, monkey do, and curiosity and all that. So Brock handed it a rice ball, and it became pretty friendly. But it was at that point that it decided to steal Ash's hat, and we all know what happens after that. It gets a little angry after James punts it, and well, it evolves into Primeape. An angry, rage-induced ape that will not stop chasing you if you make even a slightest bit of eye contact with it. That is horrifying, but also pretty cool. And as soon as Ash caught it, I knew it was going to be a powerhouse on his team. And I was right about that impression. And what's more is that it actually had a full-on arc in the anime until Ash gave it away and never went back for it. What is wrong with you, Ash? Seriously, Seriously, after all these years, he still never went back to Primeape. Unless any of you can prove me otherwise, he never went back to see the rage-induced ape, and I really wanted to see Primeape get more character screen time on the show, but he never did. It's like Pokemon themselves forgot about it. Although real critique though, Primeape was always a fighting type I heavily endured, and it was only 8 generations later that it finally got an evolution, Annihilate, and I love that evolution line even more. Wait, but now that Primeape can evolve, does that mean it has access to Eviolite now? I kind of wonder what Eviolite Primeape would be like. Food for thought and competitive. Anyways, deep breaths for myself. Especially since especially the love continued since Annihilate itself is based on a previous Dex entry, which goes a little something like, it has been known to become so angry that it dies as a result. Its face looks peaceful in death, however. Yeah, so this honestly gave me a lot of imagination to use, which indicates that some Primeape just don't die. Instead, they just evolve into this form to Annihilate rather than just outright passing away, which kind of gives a bit of sad context to the Pokemon series. Like, some Primeape get so angry that they just die. Others just become so angry that they ascend to a stronger level that is just unfettered by their previous form. Oh, and in case any of you are wondering, yes, Annihilate would technically be an honorable mention for this list, but I just like Primeape a bit more because of the whole attachment sort of thing that I have. Mostly because of its role in the anime as one of Ash's heavy hitters, and honestly, finally actually allowed Ash to command it, even though during that scene he was giving full eye contact to Primeape, and if I remember from the Pokedex in the anime saying, if you make eye contact with this Pokemon, it will chase you forever. So Dexter pretty much lied to our faces as kids. Anyways, all while giving it the ghost typing upon evolving is actually very useful. Ghost fighting is a very unique type combo, and I think it's only shared with one other Pokemon, being Marshadow. And that's really unique. Having a typing that's only shared with you by a mythical, just honestly, they're just like, it's like the developers looked at Marshadow and was like, hey, you know what we should do? We should do Marshadow, but again, and have Primeape evolve. And yeah, and then it just became one of the most horrific things in VGC has ever seen. Yeah, that's honestly crushing, but also very cool. After all the appearances it's gone through, I think Primeape definitely deserves a spot on my list as my 10th favorite fighting type. Please don't hurt me, Primeape fans, I swear. I won't talk about Primeape Club too much. Wait, shit. Ballings. Yet another Generation 8 Pokemon that I've always wanted to talk about. Ballings is just one of those Pokemon that seems really cute and adorable at first, but could actually mess you up pretty easily. So Galar gave us some interesting designs for Pokemon, from Grapploct to Surfetch to even what the hell is whatever the hell Eternatus is supposed to be. But I was more taken in by Phalanx because, well, and yes, I pronounce it as Phalanx. Yes, you can fight me in the comments. I honestly don't care. I refuse to call it Phalanx. It just doesn't feel right. Phalanx makes a bit more sense, since its name actually derives from the terms fall in line and links, because they're linked up, and they're literally in a line. Come on, people. Anyways, being based on Phalanx, which is a soldier. Wait, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh yeah, it's a soldier formation in which they hold their shields high and close together, while also having a Spartan-like design that gave me real vibes from Leonidas' 300. So, some people will call it a fighting type execute, to which I say, yeah, you're kind of right. I'm honestly not gonna lie about that. But on another note, it's got far more personality than any other fighting type I've ever seen before. I mean, you got Machamp, but its only good thing is to be able to fight, and that's its whole shtick. And Grapploct, which is just a submission wrestler, and then you have Incineroar, which isn't even a fighting type, but it still has fighting type inspirations of sorts. But aside from that, another note, aside from to add to its whole personality thing, it's also got pretty good appearances in Pokemon Unite and its own home game, Pokemon Sword and Shield, where it just I freaking love this thing. It's adorable, and everything it does is absolutely cute. But it can also be tough at the same time, especially with the move pool and stats that it's got going on. And being a fighting type usually comes with very high attack, and boy oh boy does Foul Links pretty much deliver with base 100 attack. That is honestly very heavy hitting. Though honestly, good luck even trying to utilize it. But I'm pretty sure. But if I remember right, Foul Links does have a pretty decent speed stats, so it's not gonna fall behind too much. Especially since it has access to priority moves like First Impression, which can definitely get rid of any annoying fighting and any annoying Psychic and Dark types. Or wait, what else is weak to Bug? I don't even remember. Bug only is like super effective against like 3. Oh yeah, Grass. And it also definitely has its own signature move still, No Retreat, which, funny enough, it's still the only Pokemon that knows No Retreat, or Last Stand if you're Japanese. And which in case any of you don't remember, No Retreat gives an Omni boost but prevents the Pokemon from switching out at all. And thankfully, Foul Links is one of the only Pokemon that to actually keep its move as a signature move, along with 50 plus other Pokemon. At least it has that going for it. And on another note, I also really love its shiny. The brown really does mix with the yellow very well, and honestly, I've actually loved Foul Links even more because I actually got a shiny one in Pokemon Go. But with that being said, Foul Links still remains one of my favorite Pokemon to this day, even after it's only been like what, 1 generation since it was announced. And honestly, wait, did it bring it back for Scarlet and Violet? I don't remember. I need to honestly check again. But yeah, that's probably the reasons why I love Foul Links. All right, on to number 8. Chestnut. Yet another fighting type that I still really love, and yes, I am one of the people that actually likes the grass starters in any region. They always have some of those interesting designs that I've ever seen, and everyone always flocks to the water or fire starters. I always attach myself to the grass starters. And categorically, I always have to put myself with the starter, even if I have to put myself with the starter that basically nobody likes. Except for me, of course. Being the grass starter of the Kalos region, it doesn't really get much love and attention as its fellow starters Greninja and Delphox. Because Delphox is good, and Greninja is the worldwide favorite Pokemon of all time. It's certainly not my favorite though. I mean, it's not that I don't like Greninja, I do. It's just, I like Chestnut a bit more. Let's just start with everything that people don't like about this guy. First of all, its weaknesses. Now, obviously it's weak to fire, poison, ice, and psychic types as the no-duh weakness that it's grass and fighting anyways. But then it has a weakness to fairy, which, if in case you don't know, is the best type in the entire game, and it's also 4 times weak to flying. You know, another common attacking type next to fire and fighting. Secondly is its stats. Stats basically are the reason why some people don't really like Chestnut all too much. And while I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be partly an offensive tank, I think the developers missed the whole point of an offensive tank. They missed the whole offensive and tank part of offensive tank. Sure, it has 107 base attack and 122 base defense, which is pretty good on the physical side, But good luck trying to utilize that with its poor base 88 HP and base 64 speed. This relatively makes it much slower than its fellow starters, with Delphox being at 107 base speed and Greninja being at 122 base speed. Which honestly I could see what they were kind of going for with the starters. Chestnut is slower but has more HP. Delphox is the average one, and Greninja has the least amount of HP, but it's faster than the other two. And yet all of them hit hard just as equally hard on whether the offensive side is special or physical. But for Chestnut's case, it's physical. For Delphox, it's special, and for Greninja, it's apparently both because it's apparently the poster child of X and Y. Yes, I get it. Moving on. But safe to say, I honestly think once Legend ZA comes out, Chestnut should totally get a buff in some way, shape, or form. Like, think about it, it's another Legends game. You can't have a Legends game and not have the Kalos starters in it. Besides, in X and Y you get to choose both a Kalos and a Kanto starter. So it makes sense to have a Kalos starter in Legend ZA at least a little bit. And hey, I wouldn't even be mad if they had Legend ZA just have the Kalos starters as your starter choice. While this is mostly just speculation on my end, I really do hope that Chestnut gets some form of buff in the next generation. In the next game. Well, not generation, but game, I suppose. Oh, and I guess to help my love for it even more, I didn't really like D&D for some reason. Like back then, I was not a big fan of Dungeons and Dragons or even wanting to roleplay at all. But ever since X and Y came out, I've always kind of wanted to play a D&D session, even if it was just a one-shot. Well, and each of the starters even match one of the D&D classes. Delphox is obviously the mage, while Greninja is the rogue. Chestnut takes the role of the paladin, which specializes in physical combat and generally high defenses, while lacking in magical capabilities. Kind of like Chestnut's stats, which honestly makes sense for the theme they were going, now that I look back on it. And yeah, while I do love it more as a fighting type than a grass type, it's still a Kalos Pokemon that I adore more than any others. That and also the fact that I actually have a plush of Chespin in my room. Like, yeah, I actually have a Chespin plush. It's really adorable, and I got it for my birthday, I think. But yeah, that's pretty much why I like Chestnuts. Moving on. Hitmonlee. Once again, another Gen 1 Pokemon that I've always adored ever since it was debuted in Generation 1. I've always wanted to get into martial arts as a kid, and my preference for fighting is not with punching, but kicking. I honestly have like some of the biggest legs you'll ever see. You guys can't see them, but trust me, they're there. I can walk, totally. Anyways, being introduced alongside its opposite, Hitmonchan, Hitmonlee prefers attack over defense, which I think is what makes a fighting type just truly a fighting type. High attack. Which it definitely Hitmonlee shows in its stats with base 120 attack. Its move pool even makes sense, being able to learn a majority of kicking moves, and not to mention its dex entries going on about how it can actually stretch its legs to attack from a distance, and that it kicks as hard as Diamond. Also, I happen to be fond of its shiny. I know I don't really talk about shinies much, and I know I talked about shiny Phalanx earlier, but shiny Hitmonlee, my god, I honestly am one of the people who will actually defend green shinies. Green shinies are by far one of my favorite colors for a Pokemon, and Hitmonlee's is no exception. But aside from aesthetics, I've only used Hitmonlee like once or twice, but even so, I still love this guy. Hitmonlee has been a reliable member for me in many situations, and to top it off, while it wasn't that great in its debut gen, in later generations it's gained a buff of some sort. Like in Generation 2, the special split happened, giving Hitmonlee an absurd 110 special defense, so it's not as frail as it used to be. It gained new moves like Rock Slide and Hidden Power Ghost for coverage. It even has Limber as an ability in Generation 3, so forget about paralyzing it. And even some of its own checks to it, like Hypno, were in danger of this thing because in later gens it got Close Combat, Stone Edge, and even Sucker Punch for huge benefits to it. And I'm really glad this Pokemon got so much attention that it did. And I also like the joke that people made that Hitmonlee sounds like Bruce Lee, which is true in its English namesake, but in Japanese, it's actually based off a real-life Japanese kickboxer that I never even knew about until doing research for this video. So you're welcome for me learning these things and telling you all about them. But aside from that, I also liked how Hitmonlee appeared in the anime, especially since it appeared in the same episode that Primeape actually started making a bond with Ash, being known as the Kicking Fiend, I guess the Kicking Demon if in Japanese. Wait, is he called the Kicking Demon in Japanese? I don't know. That might be something I just made up. But overall, Hitmonlee just sort of just works for me. I don't know. I always wanted to see more fighting styles that featured kicking rather than punching, because punching always seemed like the basic go-to way of fighting, while kicking just feels a bit heftier and hits harder and all that. But yeah, aside from my own little musing, Hitmonlee is a Pokemon that I totally understand and always wanted to grow up to be like. I mean, seriously, can you imagine how much easier it would be to get to places if I could extend my legs? That would just be pretty darn funny and pretty darn useful at the same time. Keldeo. Yet another Gen 5 Pokemon has made it another list, and yes, I am very biased when it comes to Generation 5. So, just like the other 3 Swords of Justice, Keldeo is, well, he's another Sword of Justice, like the other 3, obviously. However, this one is actually one of the only mythical Pokemon to make this list. I'm sorry, I know I like Marshadow too, but Keldeo just feels a bit cooler in my opinion. Also, it's also probably one of the only mythicals, alongside Deoxys and Meloetta, to have multiple forms. That other form being its Resolute form, which it only obtains if it knows the move Secret Sword. Like any good mythical Pokemon, Keldeo has perfect base stats that lead up to base stat total of 600, with its Resolute form being probably stronger. I don't really know the difference between the two of them. But I always like Keldeo just because, well, its design looks really cool. And also the fact that it's based on the not so well known 4th member of the Musketeers. Now everyone knows the tale of the 3 Musketeers. It's always specifically stated that there's 3 of them. But what most people don't really know is that there's actually a 4th member. And why people don't really know that is because there's so little known about them. They were just a 4th member that was in training with the 3 Musketeers, and this is what Keldeo is meant to be representative of. Heck, Keldeo is so popular it even got its own movie. Whereas Keldeo and I believe it was just Kyurem or Keldeo and the Sword of Justice, I believe it's just called. I don't know, it's been a while since I've seen the movie, but yeah. But it also has a clash between 2 of my favorite Pokemon from Generation 5, Keldeo and Kyurem. And to paint a clear picture of this, I really enjoyed the movie. And yeah, I know, it was another one of those movies where Keldeo was able to talk via telepathy and all that, and yeah, I know, lazy writing as usual per Pokemon standards, but come on, how else is it gonna talk to us? It can't talk with its mouth. Or, well, it probably could, it just never really learned how to at all. But aside from that, I always tend to really like Keldeo. The blue really goes well with the orange and beige, and I don't know, it's just something about it that I really like. Keldeo just happens to be a very cool Pokemon, in my opinion, and not to mention its move pool of being a mixture of water and fighting, which yeah, quite a few Pokemon have actually tried to replicate before with like Poliwrath or I don't know. I can't think of any other water fighting types. Oh yeah, Quaquaval. Quaquaval has tried to up the ante, especially when it comes to water fighting types. But I don't know. Keldeo just seems to be the better originator of that type combo. Even though, you know, again, Poliwrath did it first, but who cares? Aside from that, Keldeo also played a pretty niche role in the competitive scene, but, you know, being a mythical, it's mythical and therefore a legendary, it's mostly always been banned from most official tournaments. Come on, people, give Keldeo some time to shine. Anyways, being from Generation 5 also gives it a massive boost in why I like it so much, and the fact that it's a water horse that fights with water. I don't know. It also kind of reminds, being a water horse kind of reminds me of Kelpies, you know? To which I'm honestly surprised we don't really have a Pokemon based on Kelpies or even Pegasus yet. Where's our Pegasus Pokemon or Game Freak? We need one. Desperately. Seriously, if Keldeo comes back in the next game, give it in Legends EA, give it a Mega Evolution that makes it a Pegasus. Please. Or, wait, I'm pretty sure there's a term for a horse being that has both a horn of a unicorn and wings of a Pegasus. I'm pretty sure there's a term for that, I just don't remember what it was. Heracross. Yet another fighting type from Johto, another Pokemon from the Johto region that I absolutely adore. And for good reason too. Heracross just happens to be one of those Pokemon that we all have some sort of connection with. We all remember Ash's Heracross from the anime, on how much of a doll, but also how much of a powerhouse it is. And heck, it was actually one of the first Pokemon Ash used against Tobias' Darkrai. And I think that's probably some of the major reasons why I like it. Some of the minor reasons why I like it is probably its design. Being based off of Herculean beetles or I guess a stag beetle, stag beetle is Pinsir, my bad. But I do remember that Go also had a Heracross, and we all know how powerful Ash's Heracross has been in the anime. Every time it was animated in a battle, it always seemed to make its tackle attack seem very brutal. Like, seriously, imagine getting hit by a Mega Horn from this thing. And not to mention, it's one of the only Pokemon in this list that actually received some form of buff in the future. That buff being its Mega Evolution, Mega Heracross, which boasts a very impressively high attack stat, as Go did for all fighting types. And honestly, I think a high attack stat is just required to be a fighting type at this point. Like, oh, you have high physical attack, you're a fighting type. That's just how it works. Jesus. But yeah, we all know Heracross is just another Pokemon that got a Mega Evolution, but trust me, this is one of the Pokemon that actually needed a Mega Evolution, especially with how underwhelming it was in Generation 2. And trust me, we all know Generation 2 Pokemon tend to have pretty weak stats, especially the baby forms. Heracross is just one of those Pokemon that was created to be an opposite to Scyther or Pinsir. At least one of the two, I'm not really sure. Most likely Pinsir because they're both beetles. But the real reason why I like Heracross as a Pokemon is probably mostly its role in the anime, where it just has to be a bit of a clown, and it also kept trying to take the sap out of Bulbasaur. Yes, I'm serious. Every time it tried, Bulbasaur would just attack back and tell it to just back off. Which honestly, I don't really get how that makes sense. It's a bug type. Bug resists grass. How does Vine Whip hurt this thing? I'm guessing Ash's Heracross was a bit of a pussy bitch, wasn't it? Okay, that was honestly kind of mean. I honestly don't mean to insult any Heracross enjoyers. I do enjoy Heracross myself. I just wish it had a bit more attention. And thankfully, it kind of did get attention from the fans, especially during one specific Smash Bros. Fan game called Crusade, where Heracross was actually a playable character and had its own moveset. Meanwhile, in Smash Bros. 2, Heracross was just regulated as a Pokeball Pokemon, and that was it. Like, come on, it's a bug fighting type, you guys. It needs to fight. It can't just lift things with its horn, and that's about it. But yeah, aside from that, I absolutely adore this thing. And honestly, its stats, well, while they aren't the best stats in the world, they are made up for it by its Mega Evolution. And honestly, I didn't even know about this before doing research, but apparently Heracross can fly? Which honestly makes me question why it's not a flying type. Pokemon types are confusing. Graplocked. Another Galar fighting type that I really enjoy. Aside from Foulwings, and yeah, you're probably wondering why Graplocked is higher than Foulwings, despite me making it seem like I wasn't going to include it on the list. Well, of course I was going to include it on the list. Don't trust me, I am a creature of deception. But joking aside, Graplocked is one of my favorite Pokemon from the Galar region design-wise. It's got the whole wrestling motif, especially with its face looking a lot like a mask that something like a luchador would wear. And, you know, its whole thing is being a wrestling octopus. Now having those extra limbs could really help it in the ring. But joking aside, why do I like Graplocked more than anything else? Well, because it was probably the first octopus Pokemon we had in a long time since Octillery in Generation 2. Yep, officially we only have two octopus Pokemon, Octillery and Graplocked. And that's it, that's literally all we have. And honestly, I'm surprised that there aren't any more. Honestly, I'm actually surprised that there aren't any more like lion Pokemon, because we only have 3 lion Pokemon, Pyroar, Litleo, and Solgaleo. And for any of you say it, no, Luxray does not count as a lion. It doesn't look like one. And I'm not counting it like a lion either. But we'll talk about electric and fire types some other time. What was I talking about again? Oh yeah, Graplocked. So Graplocked was introduced in Generation 8, and ever since I saw it in the anime where Ash fought against Beat Graplocked, I was kind of hooked on this thing's design. And the way it pretty much slinked and slithered all over the battlefield, throwing Ash's Riolu for a loop. And what's more is that, well, it's even got the power to back it up. And hell, it's even got its own signature move, Octolock, which honestly, I don't even know if I like its signature move all too much. That's probably one of the reasons why I don't like Graplocked or even using it on my team. But I would still probably use it because it's just goofy, and I love the design. But its signature move Octolock is it's not that great in my opinion. I mean, sure, it doesn't really do any damage, but it lowers the opponent's defense every single turn, which is something that you would want to do. But then that would basically mean that you're committing yourself to using this move and not dealing any damage for that turn. Or unless I'm wrong, and Octolock probably does do damage. Okay, yeah, nope, after researching it, it actually does no damage. Octolock does no damage and just lowers the opponent's defenses every single turn. Okay, well, it's actually their defense and special defense, but let's be real. Who's gonna use special attacks on a fighting type? Most fighting types are physical attackers, not special attackers. Though I guess there are some exceptions here and there, but whatever. Graplocked is my favorite Galar Pokemon. It is one of my favorite Galar Pokemon and one of my favorite fighting type Pokemon in general for about 2 reasons. One, it's incredibly designed, like I mentioned before, and I also like that clever detail of it using one of its own tentacles as a belt. That's honestly very ingenious. I never even noticed that until I did research for this video. And the second reason, of course, being, well, it's a fighting type based on another based off actual form of wrestling. For any of you who don't really know, real wrestling, and because I actually do have experience in this, real wrestling is just submission holds. That's literally all it is. It's submissions. No punches, no kicks, no elbows, just submissions. And that's what it really is about, because I would know because I was on a wrestling team for my high school back when I was younger. Well, for a short while at least. I wasn't really a part of the team too much, and anytime we won, it was basically by default because the enemy team didn't really have anybody that was in my weight class for some reason. I don't know. It's just kind of weird. But see, but you know, I always have a bit of a heart for Pokemon that have that sort of wrestling motif on them, and yeah, Grapploct is one of those Pokemon that has a wrestling motif on it. Aside from Incineroar, again, who isn't a fighting type, and I think I don't really know if we even have any other fighting type Pokemon that actually have wrestling styles, aside from maybe Machamp, but you know, I didn't want to put Machamp on the list because that'd be a bit too obvious. But for now, just know that Grapploct is one of my favorite fighting types from Galar, and honestly, I really like its design and everything about it. It's just that I think Octolock could have, you know, actually done damage, because have you seen how it's used in the anime? Lucario. Yep, we got another Gen 4 Pokemon, everyone, you probably know this. You probably know Lucario, you've probably seen it, you've probably heard about it 1,000 times. But yes, Lucario is by far one of my favorite fighting types. And for good reason. And no, that's not just because of its Smash Bros. Appearance. I honestly really did like Lucario for a long time. And especially when it was introduced in Generation 4. As the main Pokemon of the main man himself, Riley. Or, you know, or Sir Aaron, if you want to be technical about it. But technically there can be more than... But since there can be more than one Pokemon, there can be more than one Lucario. Sir Aaron and oh wait, I keep forgetting what his name was. Oh yeah, Riley and Sir Aaron basically were just the main Pokemon trainers that had Lucario and were more associated with him than with Lucario than anything else. And heck, Lucario is so popular and cool that Ash eventually got a Riolu later on in the anime, and even raised it to evolve into Lucario. Heck, their bond was so strong, it was even enough to Mega Evolve Lucario. To which you guys probably already caught on by now that yes, Lucario is another Pokemon that received a Mega Evolution, even though it technically didn't really need one. But Mega Evolution still gave it a pretty good buff, so honestly, I'm kind of all for it. But aside from that, we have the whole point of why I like Lucario. It's not just its Mega Evolution, I promise you. The reason why I like it is just because it was one of those cool Pokemon at the time, you know? And it still is one of the coolest Pokemon out there. I've actually managed to get a shiny Riolu from an Outbreak once, and Pokemon likes it so much they even gave us a shiny Lucario as an event gift in Scarlet and Violet quite a while ago before the DLC dropped. I think it was specifically before the Blueberry DLC dropped. So yeah, even Lucario has managed to become a pretty big mascot, especially for fighting types. And it also even came out with its own signature move, Forest Sphere, which then turned into a not-so-signature move as in the same generation, which is kind of embarrassing. Seriously, Lucario, why can't you be like a Pokemon that actually keeps their signature move a signature move? You blue jackal, you. Oh yeah, for those of you who don't know, he's technically not a dog. He is a jackal. Jackals are probably part of the same dog family, but I consider them separate. He is an aura-wielding jackal that stands on both legs. And in all honesty, I think he's just by far one of the coolest ones to use. Jesus. Sorry, you guys have to hear that coughing in the video. I swear I'm not that great at editing. I wish I was. And I'll try to at least put some more effort into videos. But back to why I love Lucario. Not only is it fighting type, but it's also a steel type, which yeah does make it weak to fire type attacks and ground type attacks for some, and also other fighting types for some reason. But the main reason why I like Lucario is just its design is really cool. Honestly, a lot of people like to joke around and say that, oh, it's using aura like Luke uses the Force, and well, they're actually not too far off, considering it can use its aura to sense other beings in other locations, whether they're far away or close by. And you can even use that to tell between good and bad people. Not sure how subjective that is, but hopefully it's in the right ballpark at least. And besides, I would totally want to spend some time training with Lucario. They seem to be masters of martial arts and can even craft weapons made of aura, as we've seen in Pokémon Tournament. And hey, it's actually even playable in that. Seriously, it's been playable and seen in quite a lot of games. It's even debuted in a game that took place in a generation before its own debut generation. Which, honestly, I don't know why Pokemon keeps doing that. But thankfully, they've pretty much stopped doing that as of late. Wait, no, actually, now that I think about it, the gift Vivillon that we had that was the fancy pattern was from Paldea. And it was from a mysterious land, so that's basically a glimpse into Paldea. God, I really hope that the next Pokemon they introduce in the anime isn't a Gen 10 Pokemon that pretty much... Honestly, I think it's just a Pokemon tradition at this point. And I know I'm saying honestly a lot, but I have to tell the truth, alright? I can't just lie to you guys' faces. Much like how I'm not lying to you guys that I do like Lucario to some extent. And plus, in Super Smash Bros. Brawl, he's voiced by Sean Schemmel, same guy who voices the one and only Son Goku, which actually explains why Lucario's Final Smash is a giant aura beam, and he gets stronger the more damage he takes. He's literally just a Saiyan. He's just a Saiyan in Pokemon form. You can't tell me otherwise. But honestly, yeah. But yeah, I do like Lucario. I really wish I had some aura powers of my own, and I really wish I can have Lucario in real life. They seem like really cool Pokemon to have, even though they're only like 3 foot 3 inches tall, which means I pretty much tower over the standard Lucario. I'm 5 foot. I don't really know how many inches, but I know I'm in the 5 foot range or something. Anyways, on to the next entry. Medicham. Oh, look at that! A Gen 3 Pokemon actually made the list. And I'm not going to regret this whatsoever. I promise I'm not. So you guys don't remember my previous list where I talked about my love for normal types. One of the entries happened to be Lopunny. Medicham here and the reason why I liked Lopunny was because it was one of the cooler Pokemon at the time, just like Lucario and Gardevoir. Mostly because it was also part of Team Charm for Pokemon Mystery Explores the Sky. And Medicham was another member, a part of the same team. You got being the whole brawn of the team, since it is a psychic and fighting type. Now keep in mind that Pokemon Mystery Explores the Sky came out before the fairy typing, so Gardevoir was just a pure psychic type, Lopunny was pure normal, and Medicham was fighting and psychic. So why did I like Medicham so much? Well, aside from the fact that it also, too, received a Mega Evolution, much like Lucario and Heracross before it, it honestly needed that, unlike Lucario, it honestly needed that Mega Evolution because Medicham was pretty mediocre in the competitive scene. And well, yes, Psychic Fighting was actually a pretty unique type combo at the time, and honestly, it had quite a few weaknesses. Flying Ghost, and I would say Dark, but Dark is actually kind of neutral to Psychic Fighting, so not Dark types. Oh yeah, Flying type as well. Another one of the most common attacking types, like I said before. And having Medicham just be one of the Pokemon that I adored as a kid, and grew to appreciate even more as an adult. Also, probably the fact that helps is that I actually got a shiny one in Pokemon Scarlet in Area 0. That's probably one of the bigger reasons why I like it so much. But anyways, there was also its role in the anime where it was one of the lead members of a Frontier Brain. I forgot which Frontier Brain, but I know it was a fighting type specialist that used both Medicham and Hariyama. Yeah, both Gen 3 Pokemon, and this is during the Battle Frontier, I think. It was either Battle Frontier or... I think they were called Frontier Brains. Yeah, Frontier Brains, definitely. Medicham's Psychic and Fighting typing, again, was very unique at the time, because no one would think a Psychic type would be capable of physical moves, or a Fighting type being capable of special moves. But guess what? Medicham can do both. it can learn both Focus Blast and Psychic. And I really wish that there were more physical psychic moves I can learn besides Zen Headbutt, which yeah, makes sense considering it is a meditating Pokemon. And also its pre-evolution Meditite was, I don't know, I kind of like Meditite. It was adorable in the anime, and it was even adorable in the games. But Medicham pretty much sticks out for me, mostly because of the reason I mentioned before. It was one of the main Frontier Brain Pokemon. It has a big role in the anime, and it's even a key member of Team Charm, being once again the brawn of the team. And in case you guys don't remember Team Charm's whole shtick, their whole shtick is that all three of them are female Pokemon, which stand for one of the three B's in their group: brains, brawn, and beauty. Lopunny was the beauty, Gardevoir was the brains, and Medicham the brawn. So, no, not LeBron, just the brawn. Not like the basketball player, I promise. Although Medicham does look like it could play basketball. I wonder if I can actually dunk on anybody. That'd be pretty funny. Seriously, somebody animate that. That would be hilarious. But yeah, Medicham also has a couple of other unique moves like Focus Punch and even a few other physical moves to bolster its high physical and special attacks. It's even pretty fast as well, being one of the faster fighting and psychic types. Not as fast as Alakazam, a fellow pure psychic type, but you know, it's pretty fast. And not to mention its abilities are pretty useful on whenever they actually come into play. But overall, Medicham it's okay. It got high enough on my list to be ranked at number 3, number 2. Lucario was number 3. I am honestly mixing up my own scripts for some reason. But yeah, I do like Medicham at second most, but there's just one Pokemon that I like more than the others. So, most of you are probably catching on to my pattern and probably guess what number 1 it is at this point. Well, I'm not gonna hold you off anymore. My number 1 favorite fighting type is Gallade. And yes, it's for pretty obvious reasons. Its design is really cool, and hell, it even has green in its color scheme. And you all probably know that green is my favorite color of all time, even though my channel colors are technically blue. But, you know, besides that, Gallade, yes, once again, we're talking about another Pokemon that got a Mega Evolution, even though it really didn't need it. It was already pretty strong. But that's not really the reason why I like Gallade so much. Heck, it's actually been one of my number 1 favorite fighting types of all time. And again, not because it's green or because its arm looks like a dual disc. I liked it because, well, it actually had very few appearances in the anime. It barely appeared, and its only major role is basically in the games, as Wally's major Pokemon in Emerald, in any remakes. Seriously, in the Gen 3 remakes, he has Gallade. Well, in the original games, he has Gardevoir, because Gallade didn't exist yet. But after Gen 4 came around and introduced Gallade as the male-only evolution of Kirlia, it pretty much started getting a lot of interest. And I really like how it ties to Gardevoir a lot, especially since they're in the same family tree. While there can be male and female Gardevoir, there can only ever be male Gallade, which honestly makes me think what a female Gallade would be like. That'd be pretty interesting. But anyways, Gallade is meant to represent the stereotypical swordsman archetype, the one that would always protect the princess, while Gardevoir itself is the princess. And you all probably know how we feel about psychic fighting types. Oh yeah, speaking of which, I forgot to mention, Gallade is a psychic and fighting type, much like Medicham, but it uses it for different ways. It actually, instead of being a special attacking psychic fighting type like Medicham, even though I'm pretty sure it's a physical attacker, Gallade itself is more so on the physical side of the psychic fighting spectrum than Medicham is. It just feels right. It feels like a complete Pokemon, and honestly a really good evolution from Ralts to Kirlia to it. And the fact that it and its sister Gardevoir got Mega Evolutions in the future pretty much show off their potential that they could potentially have. I mean, I mean, think about it. When else are you gonna have a Pokemon that fights with shoulder blades or elbow blades? I'm pretty sure they're elbow blades. Yeah. And not to mention its stats and move pool are just perfect for it, especially since the fact it can actually learn things like Focus Blast, Zen Headbutt, Psycho, and even the newly introduced Psycho Cut at the time. And while Gallade may not be the best Pokemon in the world, trust me, it's probably only ranked in like UU or something. I don't know. I could be wrong, but because again, my competitive Pokemon knowledge is that of a brick, I still appreciate Gallade the way it is, and having the whole nightly theme just feels right. It honestly feels like a Pokemon that I would totally want in real life. From its color scheme, to its design, to its stats, its move pool, and pretty much everything else about it, and yes, even its Mega Evolution, I really do appreciate Gallade for what it is. And honestly, I actually wish that Ash had a Gallade. Could you imagine Ash raising a little old Ralts to a Kirlia to a Gallade? That would be so freaking cool. I would have loved to see what it would have been like if you had that instead of a Lucario. I mean, think about it. They both can Mega Evolve. Both have a sense of justice and honor, and both even have that whole heroic vibe to them. But the most we ever see of Mega Gallade is from Wally, our rival from, or I should say, quote unquote rival from the Gen 3 games and the remakes. Even though technically he's not really our rival, we're his rival. But I'm pretty sure Josh Scorcher's wife Ari actually talked about that a bit more. So I probably would take her word for it on why Wally's such a good rival. But back to my love for Gallade, it just seemed like something that I probably would have loved to see as a kid, and that whole, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh yeah, dream. That whole dream came to a reality when Gallade was created. And honestly, we could have had any other design for it, but nope, this one is what we got, and I'm happy with it. So there, that's basically all my top 10 favorite fighting type Pokemon. I hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as I did making it, and I'll see all of you when we continue on our journey in PokéMonth.
You say you wanna try, but you never do. Sugar, there's a reason.